Hey guys, today we're going to be doing a full shock replacement for my 2002 Nissan Xterra. We're going to be doing both front shocks and rear shocks too. Now everything you'll need a jack and jack stands, some gloves to keep your hands nice and clean, some wheel chocks to keep the car from moving, obviously the shocks, and you'll need a 18mm ratchet, and then also you'll need a 19mm for the lug nuts to take off the front wheels. First thing you're going to do, you're going to throw shock under the front wheel. And then one under the rear wheel. Alright, let's jack up the rear of my Xterra, and then we'll be able to fully extend the shock. And I know what you're thinking, it is quite rusty back here. After jacking up the Xterra, let's start loosening off the nuts. We've sprayed them with WD-40 to help them come off a bit easier. However, it was still quite stuck on there. I was having to switch between a ratchet and a breaker bar. Eventually, I ended up grabbing a longer ratchet, which provided enough leverage to easily get the nuts off. Alright, now that we've gotten the nuts off, we're going to start prying on it. Here's the new chalk against it. Let's just keep prying off. Gonna pry off the top and start wiggling the bottom off. Now with the shock off, we're going to use a sanding pad to clean up the threads. Also spray some WD-40 on there too, just to help with the scrubbing process. The bottom was quite tight getting on, so I had to tap it with a mallet. Just gently though. And we're gonna put on the nuts. Had to tap the bottom one a bit more to get the bottom nut to thread. And then start tightening. Now we're going to take a torque wrench and torque down the nuts to spec. Like that, you've got your first shock done. Go ahead and let off. Here's the old shock, and here's the new shock. Alright, now let's do the other side. It's going to follow the same procedure as the first side, but it's going to go a lot quicker because now we're using a proper ratchet for it. Now we're going to start trying to pry it off. So, what I was gonna say was the sway bar's in the way and we need to remove the sway bar. However, I thought I could still possibly try and get the shock out without removing the sway bar. So, I tried. After realizing that wasn't gonna work, I had to start loosening off the bolts that held on the sway bar. On this side, we're just going to loosen them. We're not going to actually take the bolt out. I suggest jacking up this one side when you're releasing the last bolt, because I did have it swing up at me because there was too much pressure put on it from how it is currently. With the sway bar out of the way, we can remove the shock, or at least try to. Now with the old shock off, we're going to take a sanding pad again and clean up the threads. With how tight the bushing was, I decided to use the biggest C-clamp I could find and use that to pressure fit it on. Now that we have the shock all bolted up, it's time to raise this back end up so we can easily attach the sway bar. Re-torque down all the bolts to factory spec. To get to the front shocks, we need to take off the front wheel, crack the lug nuts, and jack up your Xterra. Now that your Xterra is jacked up, you can remove all the lug nuts and take the wheel off. To remove the front shock, you need to remove the bottom bolt that goes through the shock, and then there's also a nut that threads onto the top of the shock too. I found it quite difficult to remove the top nut because it just kept wanting to spin the whole top of the shock. I grabbed some tongue and groove pliers to hold the top of the shock in place as I loosened off the top nut. That worked pretty well, but it ended up crushing the top of the shock itself. And here's the front shock. Look how bad that is. Good thing I'm replacing them now. I noticed that the eyelet at the bottom of the shock was pushed out a bit more on one side than the other, so I had to use a clamp to push it directly in the center so that I could get the shock in place. Once you have the shock in place, start tightening up the bottom bolt. Make sure you change the torque to the correct spec every time. And then tighten down the top nut, squishing the bushings there together. Go ahead and put your tire back on. Apply a little bit of anti-seize. And then put your lug nuts back on. doing a star pattern. Tighten the lug nuts, and then release pressure off the jack. Torque down your lug nuts to spec. Crack the lug nuts on the passenger side, and then jack up your Xterra. Take off the lug nuts, and then remove the tire after. Gonna spray a little bit of WD-40 on the top nut and the bolt, then we're gonna start removing them. Here's a better shot of how I'm holding the top of the shock in place while I'm removing the top nut. Go ahead and remove the old shock. Luckily this time I didn't have to clamp the bottom eyelet of the shock. It was properly set from the factory, so I just installed the shock. Here we have all 4 shocks out. As you can see, quite damaged. No bueno.
I just want you to know, the whole time you've been watching this work being done, it's been me. Not him, who has the dirty hands or the wrench, or the ratchet, or the torque wrench. I had it the first time. It's been me. Don't ever forget it.
You take some of this good old
Loctite.
We already got a good amount on there because we've done it.
Do it in a square pattern.
Yeah, no, you want to do them one by one.
One by one?
One by one.
Why do you want to do them one by one?
Because it's cooler.
You know, I think it's pretty cool. You want to see something sick? This thing? Who cares about a Nissan Xterra when you can literally look at... Let's see if there's a license plate on the front. I don't want to show. Yeah, we can just do this right here. They can't see nothing. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Side exiting exhaust. That's what the people want to see. Not this thing. What is this?
And then you want to spin your tire around while your finger tightening it, because then it helps set them nicely in place.
Truth. We're playing Fortnite after this. You better get ready to board the battle bus.
Oh yeah, baby. You hear that they added like a new band to it? They're called Metallica. Just from Fortnite.
Metallica from Fortnite? I also saw Peter Griffin from Fortnite. Don't spill my drink. Oh, look at that.
Lefty Lucy.
Let me do it. Yeah, I can't figure this out. Just give it some Ugga Duggas. Call it a day. close in the lens.
No, you're good.
Okay, I'll tell you this, everybody. In this life, let me turn this hat backwards. In this life, you're one of two things. You're either a smart fella or a fart smella. And this guy is a fart smella. And this guy, what does it say on the thing? Photo pause. And this guy, also gonna say fart smella, but not by choice. Dude, I'm just gonna show him that ball of nos you got in there. Sorry. You know what that red button does?
Fair now.
I'm going home now.
That's all, folks.
Boule boots on. Even though I live in the city. I'm moving to Alberta in 2 days. Actually, like 1 day, but
we don't count that day.
yeah. But till then, I'm a BC boy.